You queued that up so nicely.
All right, see? Okay, there we go.
All right, so the first one that I want to tell you about is North Kansas City Public Schools, so just north of Kansas City. They have about 20,000 students. Their director of online learning, Sean Nash, he was kind of charged with looking at sixth grade science, which is why I often go directly to sixth grade science talking about a lot of this. A couple of years ago, and they said, we have a $600,000 budget that we would typically spend on sixth grade science. We need new textbooks. But they knew that standards were changing. Missouri is not adopting NGSS, but they were going to make their own science standards, and so they didn't necessarily want to buy like brand new ones because they knew the standards would be changing. So Sean is a former high school science teacher, as well as Mitzi Nessa, who is also kind of his component. They used to do the instructional technology stuff and have now moved on to different positions within the district. But they were the ones that started this. And so they started with a sixth grade science flex book from CK12. And they went through it that summer before they were going to implement. And they made sure that all the vocabulary was aligned with the Missouri State. They were chapters. They made sure that it was scoped and sequenced based off of the standards that they knew they needed to be at a certain place by March or April of the spring semester. And then they spent money on printing. So they did print because they were a 1-to-4 kind of environment, so one device for every 4 students. And they knew that they weren't going to be able to keep it digital. They did chapter or unit by unit instead of printing the entire thing, because then they got a cohort of sixth grade science teachers together that would then add additional resources throughout the school year. So they were kind of iterating as they implemented, which is awesome to see. So they compensated the teachers for doing that. They printed in full color. They also purchased Veneer Technologies, which is the probeware that goes into iPads. And so they spent some money on getting kids being scientists. Imagine that. And getting them in the lab. And so at the end of their year, they spent a total of $60,000 and reinvested the $540,000 savings back into their school district.
Wow. Holy cow. Can we just say $540,000 again compared to the $60,000 that they spent on textbooks? Can I just stop for a second and say, what in the world would it look like in most school districts if we freed up $500,000 to go towards instruction and materials and, experiences,
professional learning,
travel and professional learning, and just all of that stuff that we keep saying, oh, sorry, it's not in the budget. Now we just, I don't know how big this district is, but $500,000 has to have a huge impact.
Huge impact. So to follow up on that, so they scaled 6, 7, 8 science now, and then they started to do stuff as well. I visited their school district in October of last year, and I was there. I got to see one of the classrooms that was still using the print, and then one of the classrooms that were using their iPads, and it was all digital at that point. But while I was there, they were rolling out 1-to-1 for the entire district because they had reinvested all of that money over the course of several years, and then were able to go 1-to-1. I mean, that's a fantastic story. And then like you mentioned, the professional learning and all of the extra things that you think about, the materials that we say, we can't afford this, that we could. We certainly could. And it's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you can do something like that, when you can finally go 1-to-1, and that's a huge thing.